Hi everyone, this is Dr. Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy, and in today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about food safety and microbiology. So oftentimes I get patients that come in, they say, Doc, my stomach's upset, I got diarrhea, I'm vomiting, I couldn't go to work for 2 days, or I'm not going to work today, etc. So the first question is, what did you eat? Okay, so you kind of become like a detective. You want to figure out what's going on. Oftentimes they'll say, oh, well, I went out to a taco stand or I ate some fruit in the street. Okay, so maybe either the food was old, so it was already rotting, or someone didn't wash their hands. They didn't follow proper food safety protocol. So they passed bacteria on to you and then you got sick. Remember, everything in our environment is covered with bacteria, viruses, fungus, all sorts of microorganisms. Some of them are good, a lot of them are bad. That's why you always have to be washing your hands. Whenever you go out to eat, you're depending on a whole bunch of different people to have clean hands and have a clean working environment. Sometimes that isn't the case. Oftentimes people try their hardest because they don't want their customers to be getting sick. That's not going to be good for business. But sometimes when I talk to patients, they tell me, you know what, doc, I didn't leave the house. I only ate at home. So then there's two questions then. It's a process of analysis. Was the food fresh or was it rotten? That's number one. Number two, did they follow food safety protocol in the house? So that's what I'm going to go over today so you can help protect yourself from getting foodborne illnesses on a regular basis, because it's something that actually happens pretty often. Okay, so here I have some common household items out of my fridge, and I want to go over how to properly serve yourself so you don't infect yourself in the home environment. This goes if you live by yourself, you live with your family, you have kids, or you have roommates. It's the same thing. Remember, every human being has a different set of bacteria living in their body. It's called your microbiome. So you do not want to cross-contaminate. And I'm going to show you an example here of cross-contamination. So here's yogurt. Here's a yogurt that I eat, okay? And this one is a clean one. You see it's nice and white. It's actually brand new. But I'll eat it all the way to the bottom and it never changes color. The way I do that is every time I serve myself, I use a clean spoon. I get the spoon, I scoop it out into the plate, and that's it. This spoon can be used by me to eat my food, but if I decide, hey, I want some more yogurt, guess what? I'm gonna get a clean spoon, because once it touches my mouth, or basically even not anything else, even the table here, and you introduce it, you're introducing new bacteria. So oftentimes you look at the yogurt, you'll see like a bunch of water in there. That's the bacteria that's in there already active, eating the lactose in the milk, and that's okay. But you don't want the one that gets introduced by your mouth, because that is toxic and it's nasty. And let me give you an example here. Here's one that is contaminated. Now look at this. This is my roommate, who I always tell not to use the same spoon. And this is just yogurt. You see red, you see green, you see black. I see a little blue there growing. These are all different types of bacterial colonies that are growing in this yogurt. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't eat this. This looks pretty nasty. And nor would I recommend it. Look, you got black mold growing there. You got a collection. This is like a petri dish, okay? And all that happened here is that somebody served themselves, ate their yogurt, and said, oh, I want some more yogurt, and stuck the spoon in there. And in the moment, you won't even notice, but they introduced a bunch of different bacteria from their mouth. And then each of those bacteria got a mind of their own and just blew up and just started colonizing everything. Now, not only is it very unsavory, I don't think anybody wants to eat that. It's also not good for your health. Now, and I'm gonna explain the difference in bacteria. There's good bacteria, like the stuff you have here in this kimchi, or over here in this sauerkraut. That's stuff you wanna eat every day. But you don't want to eat bacteria from somebody's mouth or somebody's stomach, or you don't know where it came from. They could have went to the bathroom. Maybe they washed their hands. Maybe they haven't brushed their teeth. Your mouth has more bacteria than your anus. So your mouth is actually filthier. That's why you never share spoons, you never share drinks with people, because you will cross-contaminate yourself, okay? And it contaminates your food. Now, let's move on to my favorite. Peanut butter, almond butter, and jelly sandwiches, okay? I like to use propolis or royal jelly. Now, let's say I want some almond butter. I'm gonna open up the almond butter, and then I'm only gonna use one knife To get it out, I'm gonna make my sandwich. I can maybe dip it a couple times. It's better if you try to get it all out in one scoop so you don't reintroduce it. Because once you touch the bread, obviously you have a different type of bacteria. But that's not that big of a deal. The worst is, I remember when I was a kid at summer camp, I would see people get some peanut butter and then lick the knife and then stick it back in and make another sandwich. Kids do that a lot. They're introducing their bacteria to the peanut butter or the almond butter or whatever it is. It's not good. It's nasty. It's gonna ferment and it's gonna make your food unsavory. Okay. Another thing, let's say I decide I want some of this royal jelly here that I brought from the Amazon, from Colombia, and I want to get a little bit of Peter Pan peanut butter there because it's awesome. Well, I'm gonna use one knife for the royal jelly, and then I'm gonna use another knife for the peanut butter or the almond butter. You're not going to use one for two. Again, you're introducing bacteria. This is propolis. This is basically a life product. It comes out of bees. Okay, it's very nutritious, but it has live enzymes in it. So if you cross-contaminate, you're gonna cause the same issue that you caused over here in the yogurt. Now you might say, yeah, but I do it all the time. I don't see anything growing in my almond butter or my Peter Pan because they add preservatives. A lot of food has preservatives, okay? That doesn't mean you should not follow proper hygiene, because then you get into the habit of not following that and you're always contaminating all your food. Now imagine you live with other people, it's even worse. Now let's move on to food now. Let's say you want to have some of these tofu enchiladas and some of this. What is this? This is overnight oatmeal, okay? Let's just say you decided you want to eat this weird combination here. You're going to get one spoon. You're going to serve yourself. And this is going to stay in here for this food. If you're making dinner for yourself or your family, you don't put one spoon out there for like 5 different dishes. It's one spoon per dish. Because remember, even if everything has bacteria. This has its own bacteria in it. That has its own bacteria. This table has its own bacteria. So if I decide to scoop some of this and scoop to this, I just mix the bacteria. I can actually cause those to both start rotting and start fermenting, just like that. So you always just use one spoon. Now, when you're serving yourself, you're gonna use the same spoon. You don't touch the plate. So let's say you decide you want some and you grab your plate here and you say, okay, I want some of this enchilada. You grab it and you drop it in there. You don't touch the plate. Why? Because let's say you've been eating off this plate, then that plate has bacteria from your mouth. And then if I grab some of this enchilada, drop it in here, I just contaminated the spoon, I stuck it back in there. Now that food is gonna ferment. Now you might say, well, I'm gonna stick in the fridge. Okay, putting in the fridge is gonna slow the fermentation, but it's gonna ferment. And let's say you do that, and then your roommate does that. You're making the food very unsafe, okay? Because you're putting all these different bacterias in there. And not all bacterias are your friends. A lot of them are good, they're your friends, and these are the good bacteria. That's what we're gonna talk about now. I like sauerkraut. I eat it every day. I get my own spoon, I stick it in there, I eat it, and the spoon never goes back in there. That's it. Now, my roommate the other day grabbed a spoon, stuck it in there, served herself on a plate. Then she grabbed a little bit of kimchi. Guess what? Both of them started fermenting on top. They started getting like white stuff. She cross-contaminated it. So even between the jars, this is garlic here. I have a tablespoon of garlic every day. I have a tablespoon or a tablespoon of this delicious kimchi because I'm looking for good bacteria in my system. But every one of these is gonna have a clean spoon that's gonna go in and it's not gonna go back in. I'm gonna serve myself on a plate and this is gonna get washed unless I decide I wanna eat with this. But otherwise, that spoon will not be used again. Same thing for the garlic, same thing for the sauerkraut. And like I said, my roommate mixed them. So I had to cut the whole top, about an inch layer off the kimchi and an inch layer off the sauerkraut, and I ate it. But you know, if you don't get that out of there, it's gonna destroy your whole batch. It's gonna go rancid. My mom used to go nuts when we were kids because she would make rice pudding and then we would creep in and, oh, rice pudding. We'd stick a spoon in there and then taste it and then stick the spoon back in 2-3 times and walk away. A few hours later, you come back, the rice pudding is like water. It rotted because you introduce the bacteria from your mouth. Okay, now let's talk about drinks, beverages. Again, this applies if you live by yourself or you have roommates or you have family. Bottles, never introduce your mouth to this, okay? Remember, your mouth, I love my mouth, but my mouth has more bacteria than my anus. So why would you put your mouth on a bottle of orange juice, kefir, milk, almond milk, whatever? You're introducing more bacteria than you have in your anus. What happens? That bacteria goes inside, it starts to ferment it. You might say, oh, but I live alone. You know, I'm the only one that's gonna eat it. Yeah, but do you wanna eat food that's rotten, that could have nasty bacteria that is not good for your health, fermenting your food? No, you don't. So you don't wanna put your mouth on that. It's kind of like this very unappealing yogurt we looked at. And this yogurt is what inspired me today, so I'm grateful for it. This is a perfect learning opportunity to learn how bacteria can quickly take over your food and ruin your food. Okay, now let's go back to the basics. Let's say good old mayonnaise. Everybody likes mayonnaise. Well, most of us do. You don't introduce, same thing. Introduce the knife, grab it, put it on your sandwich. Don't use the same knife to stick it into the mustard or the ketchup or the relish. No, it's one knife, one spoon, one utensil for each condiment. You don't mix them because you'll mix the bacteria that exists in each one of those condiments. And then again, you risk not only the quality of the product declining because it rots, but you risk getting yourself dirty, or sick, I should say. You can edit that out, dirty, okay? You risk getting yourself sick. Now, you might say, yeah, but I've never seen rotten mayonnaise. Yes, because it's loaded with preservatives, okay? That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you buy good mayonnaise, homemade mayonnaise, organic mayonnaise, it might not have all those chemicals in there, so it'll get you sick. Now let's go to good old butter. Plain butter, same thing. How are you gonna eat it? With one knife that is gonna stay with this container. You're not gonna use it to put the butter on your bread, then the peanut butter, then the cheese. But you say, yeah, but I live by myself. What I want to get 3 knives out? Because you don't want your food to rot, and you don't want toxic bacteria to grow on it, and you don't want that every time you eat it, it upsets your stomach, it gets you sick, or you might not even notice, but it can trigger an immune response every time you eat it. So it's kind of like weakening your immune system every time because it's poisonous. Now, a lot of processed foods have preservatives in them. That's not going to happen. Like if you do that with that Peter Pan peanut butter, it's probably not going to happen. But again, this is about having proper hygiene so that you don't have to face some of this stuff. Now, what about cups and bowls and plates? Same thing again. These are clean. Once you start eating out of it, it has your bacteria on it. That's why when you go to a buffet, they tell you don't reuse the plate, because you touched the plate with the spoon and this spoon went to your mouth. Now it's full of bacteria. You reintroduce it to the plate, the whole thing is immediately infected. Now you go back to the buffet and you say, okay, I want some of this lasagna here. Let me grab a big spoonful. You grab a big spoonful and you go, oh, it's stuck in the spoon. Let me bang it off. You just introduced bacteria. Now you came back over here, you put it next to this, then here comes the next poor sucker. He uses that, he gets sick. That's why it's very common for people to get sick at buffets, because you can imagine, I've seen it all. I see people go to the bathroom, they don't wash their hands, or they go to the bathroom and they wash it with water, which is not washing your hands. You need to use soap. It needs to be 20 seconds and you need to scrub. There needs to be friction. But then they come out and they grab these handles. And then 20 people grab this, and then you come along, you grab it, and then you go to your plate and you're feeding yourself tortillas or bread or pita bread, and you're touching things, pizza, you're introducing bacteria to your mouth. Then there's the kids or the people that like to lick their fingers, and then they go out and touch all the handles. And then there's also, I've also seen kids sticking their fingers in like the salad, or they say, oh, I want some egg rolls, let me just grab it with my hand. So you can see how all this can start contaminating your food supply. But in your house, you want to maintain a nice, clean environment with all your food. Not only does your house, your fridge, your plates, everything should be clean. That's a given. but you also have to protect for the things that you can't really see, and those are microorganisms. So this is an important lesson on microbiology, how to keep everything separated. Think of this like a farm. Every one of these items has a different type of bacteria. There's like the horse bacteria, the cow bacteria, the pig bacteria, etc. My family has a huge ranch. You're not going to mix all those animals in the same pen. They'll start fighting. They start getting each other sick because of their feces and everything else. You have to keep them separate. So think of your refrigerator like your farm. I'm trying to grow a healthy farm because I want to have a healthy body. So I have my bacteria, I got my probiotics, my prebiotics. That's why I take my garlic also, my sauerkraut, my kimchi, my kefir. I eat a lot of bacteria every day to help my microbiome flourish. But you don't want to introduce stuff like this nasty bacteria that I don't need to show you again, because it's gonna ruin your health. I hope that helps, and if you have any questions, please comment below so I can answer your questions. I really enjoy reading and answering people's questions. So from Los Angeles, California, this is Dr. Ernesto Martinez. Thank you. Goodbye.